everyone. Happy New Year. It's 2023 at the time of this recording, and this episode is going to be my year-end review. I am going to look back at the year 2022 and share with you everything I learned about business. Well, maybe not everything because that wouldn't fit in a podcast, but I'm going to share lessons learned from this past year, what's been going on in my businesses this past year, as well as my numbers, because I know that you all like to hear the numbers. That is something I really believe in, is bringing to light the numbers so that we can all kind of see that no business is perfect behind the scenes. Honestly, I'm like super embarrassed to share my numbers this year, and I'll explain why in a bit. But I do this because I want to be transparent with you all. Part of my brand and part of my offering to the nature-based therapy community is that I want to pull back the curtain a little bit and share very honestly with you about the ins and outs of running a nature-based practice, and so that you can learn from my failures and my mistakes and maybe not make them yourself. So I hope that sharing these numbers and sharing honestly about what this year has been like for me will help you know that you are not alone in running your nature-based practice, or even if you're not running a practice, if you're just starting to engage in nature-based work. I think some of the information I share here will be helpful to you in just avoiding mistakes as you go and like thinking about your business as you move forward. I'm going to start by reviewing everything that happened in my business last year, and then I will move into the revenue and profit margin numbers at the end. All right, I am clicking in now to ClickUp. I am starting to use ClickUp in my business because my business is too big now to actually use Trello anymore. If you've listened to me in the past, you know that I love Trello as a project management tool. I still highly recommend Trello, but my business is too big for Trello anymore. We need a more robust project management system. And one of the things doing some reflection to get ready for this podcast, I realized that, wow, I'm running a big business now. I didn't realize this until I sat down to do the notes for this podcast. And here I am realizing things as I made this outline. So I'm clicking into ClickUp. I'm going to open my notes and then start chatting about my numbers and some goals from this year. Let's start. The big thing that I did this year was I split my businesses. So for a long time, I've been running Outdoor Kids OT since I think I incorporated it on the first day of 2016. So it has been we're entering our 6th year now. I guess that would be, no, 7th year. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We're entering our 7th year now. I had to do a little math there on my fingers. And we're entering our 7th year, and for a long time, really early in the practice, I started having people asking me to coach them, to start businesses. And for a long time, I was doing that work as part of Outdoor Kids OT, as part of my nature-based therapy practice. And it was, the coaching and all the courses that I have and the business coaching business that I started doing, my Business Bedrocks program, like all of that was kind of like meshed into Outdoor Kids OT. And what that meant was it was very confusing. The numbers were very confusing because even though I had my accountant split things out as far as revenue, and even though my practice manager, Nicole, would split things out on all the profit reports that she would do for me, it still looked like the practice was extremely profitable because the online business money was inside of that account, right? So it was still really hard to kind of run the financial reports that I needed to make sure that the practice was profitable as well as the online business being profitable. So this year, the first 6 months of the year, literally it took me 6 months, was reorganizing everything to have Therapy in the Great Outdoors be an official business and have Outdoor Kids OT be a California nature-based private practice, like a California corporation. And so this was major work. There was, new employee identification number to get for the new business, new bank account for the new business. I changed all the email handles inside of my email platform that I use for Therapy in the Great Outdoors. It was saying Outdoor Kids OT, and I had to change it to TGO. And that was a big hassle. There were lots of broken links. I fixed a million broken links. There's probably still broken links out there. And then the other thing we did while I split these two businesses, my husband and I also started investing in real estate. So we bought a small property here. We live in Madison, Wisconsin. I manage the business remotely in California. I still have my California practice. And we had to take some of the money from my accounts to fund the new bank accounts for the real estate investing bank accounts. So we opened like 6 bank accounts or something crazy for various different reasons. I won't go into all that here because it's not a real estate investing podcast. But so there was just so much work at the beginning of the year. And at the beginning of the year as well, I was getting the Therapy in the Great Outdoors membership site set up. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, I just remember feeling so stuck. And once I finally found a good platform to use, that kind of freed up my creativity a little bit to make all of the areas. And so good software matters. But it was just the first 6 months of the year were such a blur because it was so much set up. The other thing that we were doing this year was building software. We are working, my practice, Outdoor Kids OT, is working with Therabyte, the Canadian, they are in the US too, but they're a Canadian-based EMR, and we're working on building software with them for group registration. We were having, before we were piecing together different softwares, we were using like a camp registration platform for people to register for groups, and then we were having to enter everything into our EMR, which Noda was my old EMR, which I increasingly became less satisfied with as we went on, and they went out of business last year. So that might explain why I was increasingly dissatisfied with their customer service, but it was great when it was great. And then they just stopped kind of servicing it. But so anyway, now we're working with Therabyte and we're building software, and we're really excited about it, but it has been a much longer process than we anticipated. We were not prepared at all for the software development process, and just it's been so much work this year. So we're still not quite done. It's better, but we're still not quite done yet. I will be talking more about that in the future, I'm sure, because once it's done, we're going to be ecstatic with it, I know, because it will save so much time with forming groups. Maybe I'll do a whole episode about that in the future. But again, trying to keep this relatively short. And then also this year at Outdoor Kids OT, I hired my first full-time employee. So I think a lot of times y'all see me online and you think my business is really big, and I realize it is big now, but in the past, it has not been that big. I really have had part-time therapists who work like between 4 to 8 hours a week for the business. So they're very part-time. And one thing I would share with y'all is that it's much better in a business. I do think that protected me during COVID, but because people had other sources of income and I wasn't the sole source of income for anyone. However, it was really hard to run the business that way because nobody has time to take on new kids or to kind of invest in projects in the business because they're all working other full-time jobs. So I hired my first full-time employee. Her name's Elena. She's amazing. Shout out to you, Elena. So thankful for her. She's just been doing great. And it's been really cool to have like someone else's mind who's kind of on the business all the time. Like this is the main thing she's doing rather than like this side thing that she's doing. So it's really great. And I'm really thankful for her. So now my practice has 6 employees. We have 4 OTs, 1 full-time, 3 very part-time. We have 2 group assistants who assist with the groups. We have 9 volunteers. We have 3 independent contractors. So the practice manager, Nicole. I have a new VA I just hired, Hannah, who's incredible. I'm very excited about her as well. And I have a podcast producer, writer. Well, I guess that's not really Outdoor Kids OT. So I guess that really would be a team of 17. The podcast producer is more on the Therapy in the Great Outdoors business. But so I'm managing a team of 17 people. And I literally did not realize this until I typed it for the notes for this podcast. So this is good for me to realize because there's so much going on in a practice that size. It's 17 people that I'm managing. And I think I've always thought of it as I'm really only managing the OTs. So why am I feeling like it's so much work when I'm really only managing 4 people? Well, it's not true. I'm managing 17 people. So that's a lot, right? And I think typing that helped me realize like, wow, how far we've come in my practice and we've grown. And then the final thing that happened this year was that I continued managing the practice from 2,000 miles or so away. While I feel like I'm really maintaining positive company culture based on like the therapist ratings on our monthly meetings and stuff. So it's kind of cool to have that as part of my experience as a business owner, because I actually had someone reach out to coaching for me specifically about that in her business because she knew that I was managing it remotely and wanted to know how I was doing it. And so I do think that's valuable experience for me, even though it is not something I would have chosen. We moved to Madison to be near my husband's aging parents, and just in time too, because they've really needed us and his family has really needed us this last year. They're 86 and 91 now. 87 and 90, I think. I can't remember. His mom just had a birthday too. I should remember. I think she's 86. And that has been really amazing to be here. And yet also I didn't plan that. Like we weren't planning for that to happen, but it's been great for me to have to kind of flex my business muscles to my business brain to kind of think about how to stay connected from far away. So, and it also means I get to go back and visit California every now and then during the year. I go about 2 or 3 times a year, as much as the business can afford. It's expensive to go back and visit. But yeah, it's been great. So my goal for next year I had written down was to really start polling, because I just realized now that the business is so big, is to really start polling and getting anonymous feedback from volunteers and the group assistants and other employees, not just from the therapist. I'm really thinking about company culture being the therapist, but really maybe expanding my idea of company culture to everyone who works in the business could really benefit the business in some ways. So that was a goal that I had. Okay, I am keeping an eye on the clock because this is getting longer than I wanted it to be. As usual, if you've listened in the past, you know that I am chatty. So, all right. I'm going to go quick through the things I did in the Therapy in the Great Outdoors business. I launched the Therapy in the Great Outdoors community on April 22nd on Earth Day. We've now grown to 258 people, which is really exciting. I gave free access to loads of nature-based resources inside of the library area of the community, which was a paid space. It now only is included in my group coaching program because I had too much that I was managing. But I gave free access to those resources, $400 of value to over 30 leaders in the nature-based therapy field, people that I knew from online or that had previously been in my programs. I ran a small group mastermind program for 6 practitioners who were specifically focused on growth and hiring in their nature-based practice. So these were all people, the majority were all people who had been in my previous programs. We went to Costa Rica for a mastermind trip in November that was just magical and fun and tropical and lovely, and just sitting by the beach and talking about business. It was my happy place. And they were just such amazing entrepreneurs. They're probably people, I can't call them out because I try to keep my business clients like private, but I think they are people who you are following to learn from them in the online space because they are just incredible people who are doing great things in nature-based work. So anyways, they're awesome. I launched the Library of Therapy in the Great Outdoors resources and the Business Hive in July, shortly after I launched that mastermind in May. So this has been a big year of launching things. So April launched the community, May launched the mastermind, July launched the Library and the Business Hive. The Business Hive is different from the mastermind, and that the Business Hive is for people who need my Business Bedrocks program, and you enroll for 1 year. We do weekly coaching in the fall and in the spring, and they get all my business templates and things. So people that are in the mastermind also got access to that, but we also enrolled 12 more people in the Hive for a year-long business coaching program. And this was really great for me to experience because I wasn't sure, what happened was I really wanted more time with people inside of when I did Business Bedrocks in the past, it started out as a 10-week program. Then I moved it to 14 weeks. Then I moved it to 15 weeks, I think. Maybe I left it at 14 weeks. I can't remember the 3rd or 4th time I ran it, if I kept it the same length or added a week. But it just never felt like enough time. And when I set up the membership site, something that I realized was that I could really structure my business how I wanted to. It gave me that moment to say, how do I want this business to be structured? And I decided to make it a year-long program. And I wasn't sure if that would deter people, But the reason for that is to serve people more. The reason for that is to really get into people's businesses, to know them, to be available to them over the course of a year. And it's dirt cheap for a year-long group coaching program. So right now it's currently priced at $347 a month, which is, for the value you get from it, is like, it's a no-brainer to join. I have to say that. Like, I've paid way more than that for group coaching programs that offered way less in value. So I try really the best I can to keep it affordable for people, because I know, like, nobody's becoming a billionaire off of nature-based therapy. So, like, I know that we have limitations on our income, but also, I'm really excited that 12 people joined last July. We're going to open the cart again at the end of January, in just a few weeks, for that program. So we're opening cart the end of January and the end of July. Those are the 2 times per year you can get into the Business Hive, which again has my Business Bedrocks program, all the business templates that I have, and a great community of people there, and weekly coaching for you. So so I launched that in July. I automated all the processes around enrollment for the Contigo Approach online course. So you can go to contigoapproach.com to get all the details about that. I won't go into any spiel here about it, but it is my online course that guarantees to make you an expert in nature-based pediatric therapy. We enrolled 43 new therapists into the Contigo course this year, which means over 100 people worldwide have taken it. It is just, I could cry. I'm so excited about the future of this course. We're continually making updates and just improving it and changing things. So the mentoring calls that come along with that we offer, as long as we offer the online course, we're going to do these free mentoring calls for anyone that joins the course. For as long as you want to be on the calls, you can attend them. And it's one of my favorite things to do in the business, is go on those calls, because you just see how great the people that enroll in this course are, and the great work that they're doing with kids. So I started planning updates to the course for 2023 this year too. Like, we're trying to get a certification made with a process where you could get certified, and then we could have a directory of providers on our website, and people could search for people who are trained in the Contigo course. I'm also working diligently on getting the approved provider application done for AOTA, for any OTs to get AOTA approved CEUs for the course. So okay. And then the last 3 things, I finished my research and my dissertation. I'm going to graduate in May with my PhD. Like, that is like, oh my gosh, it's finally going to be over, you guys. And then I'll just, be being pressured by my academic people to publish things. So anyway, I was also approached for a book deal. I don't know if right now I can say the name of the company, but anyway, a publishing company reached out to me. They want me to write a book about nature-based practice for, like, PT, OT, speech therapists, mental health counselors who work with children. So I'm going to get started working on that this year too. So that's it for everything I did this year in the businesses. The funny thing is that I flew by the seat of my pants this year, you all. Last year was a really hard year in my 2021 was a really hard year in my business. And it was when I made the pivot to nature-based therapist, rather than working with, running my practice and working with a broader population of occupational therapy entrepreneurs. I think this year of 2022 was just because of all the projects we had going on with splitting the businesses, building the software, bouncing back from a hard year the year before, and the pandemic. Let's just remember, we all have just lived through a pandemic and keeping the business alive during a pandemic for the last 2 years. So there's just a lot, right? And it has just resulted in, at the end of the year of 2022, I felt exhausted and burned out. Like, I still wanted to do this work. I still believe in the importance of getting kids outdoors and of supporting therapists to do this work. I still know that it's like my mission and my calling to do this work. And that doesn't mean necessarily that I'm never going to feel exhausted, right? And I think there was so much that happened in this year that was really hard work, that it's hard for me to look back on it and actually celebrate it, because it has just felt really tiring in many ways. So there's like all these beautiful things, all these great moments, right? But it's really hard for me to celebrate those things. I'm trying to get better at that. I actually think, graduating in May, I have already booked an Airbnb to go away with some friends for a few days in June because I told my husband, I have to put it on the calendar now or I know what's going to happen. I'm going to graduate. We're not going to celebrate. We're not going to do anything special. And then I'm going to move on with my life because that's just kind of how I roll. And I'm trying to get better with like stopping and looking back and honoring all the work that I've done, right? And I want that for you all too that are listening. Like I want you, no matter how small it is, no matter the smallest thing, if you like just started to learn about nature-based practice this year and you're taking small steps towards doing nature-based work with children, I want you to look back and honor that. I want you to be able to celebrate these kind of moments in life when we're taking steps forward, right? So definitely make sure if you are running a business that you are doing kind of what I just shared. You're looking back at the year and like writing down everything that you accomplished in the last year, like actually honoring it. Now, like I said, I flew by the seat of my pants and really didn't have structured goals this year. So it was, again, a very challenging year. I felt like I did not come up for air until just now, really. When the calendar turned, I was like, okay, 2023, Nicole and I, my practice manager and I would keep saying, this is the year of stability. This will be the year of stability. So my plan this year is to continue improving the things that I have going on in my practice and in the therapy and the great outdoors business and not create new products. Along those lines, I decided to eliminate and not sell anymore the Therapy in the Great Outdoors library. So that space had so much value for the $400 that I charged for it, but it was such a difficult thing for me to find time in my business model to actually market. And so it just never sold very well because I couldn't find time to market it with the other things that I was marketing. So I decided to incorporate that into my business coaching program and just eliminate that as a product that we sell. So now my business is very streamlined. And my goal this year is to work at a slower pace and maintain a healthy kind of balance and to get stability in the therapy and the great outdoors business. Outdoor Kids OT is very stable. It runs on systems. Like the stuff that I teach in my Business Bedrocks group coaching program, which is inside of the Business Hive community, my year-long group coaching program inside the Therapy in the Great Outdoors community, that whole program was developed because my practice runs so well because we have systems in place for so much of what we do that it really is efficiently run. And so it doesn't require as much of my time, right? The Therapy in the Great Outdoors business is much newer and I'm needing to get systems in place in that business. So my goal this year is to really just focus on selling the Contigo course as like my main offer. And of course, the free Tigo community, like anyone can join that. Like that's always out there is like, please come join, get resources. It's free for everyone. Not free for me to run, but it's free for everyone to join. So I want to be really clear on that. It does cost money to run the membership site. I pay $100 a month for the platform and I pay people to support it. So, but I want to focus on selling the Contigo course as like the entry point, right? And then that to me ends up being kind of a funnel into the Business Hive, which is our year-long group coaching program. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I do feel like it's a helpful for you to see my thought process about how I'm structuring my business after being in business for a little bit. Hopefully it's helpful to you to think through your business. Like what is your, even as a nature-based practice, like what is your entry level product for people in your practice? And what are ways that you could kind of move them into higher levels of service or offer them other things in your business? It is so much easier to keep a happy client than it is to find a new client. So you should always be thinking in your business in terms of what can you offer to your current customers that could be of benefit to them versus I have to just find a million new customers, So I will also at the same time give a caveat. I'm going into like business coaching mode here, but I will give a caveat that one mistake that I see a lot of nature-based practice owners do right away is that they try to offer too many different services at once. I am a big proponent of this is a little bit of a do as I say, not as I do in my online work, at least. I did well with this in my practice, which is why I think my practice is pretty successful, is don't offer too many services to start out. Pick one service that you're going to offer and do that really, really, really well and become known for that, and then decide what you're going to offer for the current clients. So just a little nugget of wisdom there. I've been reading the book by, it's right here on my desk, Michael Masterson, called Ready, Fire, Aim, 0 to 100 million in no time flat. Now, I have no ambitions to make $100 million in my business. I think that sounds really stressful, nor do I want that. I'm really a big fan of us all creating businesses that serve us and that we want to be running, right? So the reason I read the book, though, is because it has a lot of information in it about getting to 1 million, which I do want to do in my business. So one of the things that he talked about in the book is that in the early days of business, like you need to be selling. You need to be selling almost all the time. And you need to be selling your primary offer, like the one thing that you offer, so that you become very well known about that offer. I feel like there was something else I was going to tell you all about the book, but maybe it'll come back to me later. But that was one of the things I read in that book that has gotten soaked into my brain now. And I'm like, I should be selling the Contigo course more. And that should be the main thing that I sell, right? So freeing up the offers that I have and not having as many offers has really helped my brain be freed up to understand how my online business, the therapy and the great outdoors business can be structured in a way that is easier for me to run and frees up my time to actually spend time supporting the people in my programs. That is something I was very focused on the last 6 months or so of 2022 too, was saying, I'm not going to spend so much time creating online content that's free for people. I want to support the people inside of my paid programs. And it does take time to get to that point. But my goal is always to give the most access to me and my best thinking and my best, business brain and coaching inside of my paid programs versus spending so much energy on producing free content for marketing that I don't have energy left to give to people in my paid programs. So that's an important shift and kind of learning that I had this year that I'm definitely focused on and going to continue to hold dear to my heart as I move forward in my business. Okay, let's talk about the numbers, my embarrassing numbers. So, okay, first of all, this should be a lesson in why you cannot use bank balance budgeting, which basically means look at your bank account and see if you have money in your business, because you might not have money in your business just because your bank account balance is $47,879.74, like mine was on December 31st in my practice this year. The numbers in my business, I'm going to explain why this is the case. So I had total revenue in the business of $203,747 and a few odd cents. And I had total profit in the business of $2,025.96, which means that my expenses in the business almost equaled the revenue that I brought in. That's a 1% profit margin, y'all. That is not good. I want between 5 and 10% for my businesses all the time. And the reason for this is because the reason that the bank account balance could look so high, but the actual profit was very low, is because I was living on money from previous years. Basically, there was money brought in from previous years, right, into the business. So you don't start the year on January 1st with $0 in your bank account unless it's the first year you started the business. But for me, I brought money over into, from previous years into the business. And that was kind of padding my numbers for a while, essentially. So the important lesson here is that you need to be looking at your profit and loss statement every single month and analyzing throughout the year, right, to make sure that your business is profitable, looking at the year-to-date numbers that your accountant gives you. So, as I said, this year was crazy, and I probably wasn't looking at those numbers well enough. So I really, at the end of the year, had to be very intentional about managing money. Like, I didn't take my trip to California that I normally would have taken in December because the business just could not afford it. So other things that affected our profit margin this year in my practice are that we did not have summer camp for the second year in a row, and I hired my first full-time employee. And anytime you hire a full-time employee, there's a lot of upfront cost because you're paying that person for hours that they are working before their caseload actually is full. Now, we filled her caseload by, I think by like November, early November, she was full, but that was still, 2-3 months. We started paying her in August, I think, or September. I can't remember. And so it was several months of full-time pay and benefits that we were offering without having the income to support them. So that ate up some of the money from previous years as well. So there were just several things that happened that made that profit margin really slim. But, we navigated it. We stayed profitable, but just barely. So I was very intentional about that. Like I said to you guys, I believe in transparency as a business coach with all of you. And I straight up said to my accountant, like, I cannot have a practice that is not profitable. I have to make sure that this practice is profitable so that I can honestly be saying to people that I can help you run a profitable nature-based practice. Now, that doesn't mean that some years now we've been profitable every year. Even through COVID, we were profitable. And I wanted to continue to be able to say that honestly and not be lying when I say that in marketing. So I can say that this year, but man, just barely. I'm so embarrassed to share this with you all. But anyways, it's I want to say better done than perfect, but it's not really a better done than perfect situation. It's a better honest than perfect situation so that you can learn from this experience I've had. Okay, for the Therapy in the Great Outdoors business, we brought in $117,562.15. And this one, again, was a little bit more profitable. It was about 3% profit margin, 2.7% profit margin. We had total profit of $32,068.40. I have an explanation for this abysmal profit margin as well. I spent too much money in the Therapy in the Great Outdoors business this year. I had to buy the platform for the membership site. I spent a lot of money and time getting stuff set up in there, like the resources that we have in there, paid people to do that. I spent a lot of money on a group coaching program that helped me to do the webinar and the sales funnel for the Contigo Approach online course. So that was a very significant expense, as well as I dipped my toe in the water this summer with paying for advertising. Some of you may have seen the ads on Facebook or Instagram to do paid advertising to drive traffic to the Therapy in the Great Outdoors resources and the Contigo course. So that was really expensive, and it was a bad mistake on my part as a business owner, and I will fully own that. Now, my business did stay profitable. I didn't spend money I didn't have, but I still feel like I wish I hadn't spent money on advertising because my business probably wasn't ready to do that. I really didn't have enough saved in the bank accounts to make sure that even if we lost all that money on advertising, we would be okay. Now, we did technically, during the time we were running ads, we did technically break even or maybe even make a little bit of money. I didn't pull those exact numbers, but I do know that we sold enough Contigo Approach online courses to make up for the cost of the advertising. My concern is, and I said this to the Facebook ads person that I had hired, that I don't know if those sales would have happened even without the advertising. And that is a struggle that I always have with paid advertising. I feel like with my business, my philosophy for this coming year is going to be to do organic content to get reach rather than pay for ads, because I just don't know if really those ads had anything to do with us actually selling the number of Contigo courses that we did in order to make up for the ad spend. I always will wonder in my head, had I never run Facebook ads and I'd saved that, I think it was about $12,000 that I spent on ads. If I had never spent that money, would we still have made the same amount? Would the same amount of Contigo courses have sold? And then we would have been more profitable because we would have basically had that income, right? I will never know. I mean, there are just some things you'll hear people say all the time that you can the ad spend that you have and figure out your cost per lead and the cost for per person you get in your funnel and then figure out how many you bought. The problem is that getting that kind of data takes a very long time to like dial in the systems with your paid advertising, and it costs a lot of money. So I heard from multiple Facebook ads managers that the minimum they would recommend spending each month is $2,000 on ads, plus an additional $1,500 to have the ads manager managing the ads. So $3,500 a month. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's not something that I would recommend for most nature-based practices to do, but I'm just sharing my learning here in case you're thinking about doing paid advertising. It takes a long time to get the metrics dialed in, and I lasted about 2 months, and then I was like, I don't have the money. I don't have more money in my business to be able to continue just funneling money and hoping that we get more sales. I'd rather do kind of organic marketing and see how that goes. So anyways, that was my Facebook ads lesson learned and why the TGO business was not as profitable as it should have been this year. So the reason why I titled this episode, Why $53,415.10 in your business bank account on December 31st may not indicate profitability, is because technically my business has had $53,415.10 in both bank accounts, in the two bank accounts for the businesses on December 31st. But as I've showed you here, my profit margins were not great. I was profitable, but I was barely profitable. So I share all these numbers to help you as you start to learn how to manage finances in your business. Obviously, I'm still learning. I'm almost 7 years in now and still learning. So I share these numbers to help you. I hope that they are helpful. I would love feedback. I would love you to talk with me about this so I don't feel so exposed and vulnerable with no feedback from anyone. So my businesses in total made $321,309 last year. Now, that is not, I want to be clear, if you don't know about business, that is not what I paid myself. Okay, that's the total that came into the businesses. And like I said, the profit margin is what's left over after you have paid all your expenses. So I think the last time I looked, I didn't pull those numbers for this podcast, and it's getting long now, so I'm not going to stop and do that. But I think I paid myself about $70,000 last year. So, and that's actually part of that is from Outdoor Kids OT, and part of that is from Therapy in the Great Outdoors. So out of a $321,000 income total, I paid myself less than a third of that. So that's not good, actually. You should as a business owner be able, I feel like personally, if I brought in 321,000, I should have paid myself $100,000. But my goal this year is to pay myself $100,000, assuming we hit our revenue numbers that I want to hit. All right. I feel as though I did not explain very well. I would be so willing to have conversations about these numbers. If you guys listen to this episode and have questions about the numbers and want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it inside of the TGO community. There's always a post for the podcast, and you can always put questions under there for me. I do have my team monitor that and send stuff to me that needs to be replied to by me. So if you have questions about these or want to talk more about them, I'm happy to chat about it inside of the TGO community. What else did I want to share with you? I wanted to share with you that my goals for the next year. That's the last thing on the outline here. So generally my goals, I'm not going to go into all my goals, honestly, because I set quarterly goals and annual goals for each business. And I feel like now that I have two businesses, it just makes the podcast way too long. You guys would get bored. So I'm going to kind of give you the overarching. So I'm really trying to, again, work very strategically and more slowly this year. So one of the things that I decided was to set very achievable revenue goals. So my goal is to hit 300K in the practice, which should be very achievable, and to hit 120K in the TGO business. So 300K for OKOT, 120K for TGO. And I have kind of mapped out one of the things that you can do when you write annual goals for the year is map out by quarter what you need to do for that. So I have like on a chart, I've kind of mapped out like what revenue do we need to hit for each quarter, accounting for, like, for example, in the practice, I can look at summer, and summer might have very different revenue than the spring does because it's a different type of service. Like the way we structure the business at Outdoor Kids OT is we do individual and group services during the school year. And then during the summer, those services pause and we do summer camp. So just kind of looking as you map out revenue goals for the year, look at what's happening in your practice during those times and map out revenue goals accordingly. All right. For a second goal that I really have, like a general, these aren't supposed to be measurable and all like perfect how we make them as therapists when we write goals, but a general goal is to really focus on fostering community. And I want to do this inside of my programs, my paid programs, as well as inside of the free TGO community and in my business, honestly. Like that was a goal that we wrote in my practice, was to have like at least 2 per year kind of team building, community building events. That might just be going to dinner together and enjoying a meal together. Simple. It doesn't have to be hard, but like really thinking about fostering community. And one of the ways that I want to do that is to really learn how to be a good, like kind of host of a community, like the membership space that I have for the TGO site. I want to start fostering more like kind of in-person type of connections, like Zoom calls. In the platform, we use a platform called Circle to host the TGO community. It is phenomenal. It is amazing. I love it so much. It's just, it makes your life so easy to run a membership community. I love Circle so much. And they just now have a live rooms feature where it's like Zoom, but like way simpler to use, and you can host it right inside the platform. Community members can host it. So please, if you're listening to this and you're inside of the TGO community and you want to you want to be part of that community, lead in that community, like please let me know. I am so willing to like give you the ability to have a live room. I think you can do up to 30 people, which would be a lot, honestly. Like I think better to have smaller group meetings. But for example, if you are, maybe you're really passionate about using art in your nature-based sessions or something, and you just want to like host a discussion of people to talk about using art in your nature-based sessions with kids. Like this is an idea off the top of my head. It doesn't have to be that. But if you want to share of yourself with that community, I am so happy to link up with you and give you access to be able to host a live room inside of the TGO community to have that discussion with people. You could even be like, therapists from Minnesota, we're all going to meet or whatever. So I really want to start doing more things like that. So if there are things that come to mind as you're listening to me share this, that you would love to have inside of that community, please let me know. You can DM me inside of the community, just hit like message and type in my name and it will pull up, and you can DM me or reach out to me on Instagram or email me, however you want to get in touch. Let me know if you have ideas, because I'm super open to any ideas any members in that community have. I will be very honest here too. And there's this like voice inside my head saying, this is one of those things that you're going to lay in bed at night and wish that you hadn't said, and you're going to think about editing it out of the podcast, but I'm going to leave it in and be brave. I feel really lonely a lot of times, like leading in this space. I think sometimes, I don't know, I've been told I'm intimidating. I promise I'm a normal person, you guys. Half the reason that I share these numbers with you is to show you like, hey, sometimes even people who really are good at running businesses like miss that their business wasn't that profitable. So things like that. Like I really want you to know that I long to be in community with you all, and I really want to help support your work with that TGO community. I want the money I spend and the time that my team spends, kind of building that community to really help you in your work for free. Even if you don't ever become a member of any of my paid programs, I mean, I'm talking about the free community here. I want that space to be useful to people. So yeah, that's it. And I want to feel less alone too. So I will love to be in some of those group calls, hopefully as well. The last goal that I have kind of overarching is that I need to really single single-mindedly focus on selling the Contigo course. So the reality is that there are nature-based trainings kind of popping up everywhere now. So I have competitors, more so than I did 3 years ago when I started this. So I really need to think clearly. And maybe that's what I was going to tell you guys about that Ready, Fire, Aim book by Michael Masterson. FYI, I would not recommend that book if you're starting out. It's kind of overwhelming. So not that I'm recommending the book, but one of the ideas in that book was, like I said, you have to sell when your business is in the beginning, you have to sell the one product that you have all the time. You have to be focused on selling that product. 80% of your time as the owner of the business should be focused on selling that product. So it doesn't mean that you can't do free stuff. Like a lot of the way that I market personally, and I think is an effective way to market, is to share free content in order to sell your other content, right? In order to sell. So you're serving while you're selling, I guess is how I like to think of it. But another thing that I learned from that book was that to sell something well, to sell even your one signature product well, you have to have a big idea. There has to be a big idea behind it, and there has to be a big promise. And so I've had to do a lot of thinking recently about, like, what is the unique thing about the Contigo Approach online course? Like, what is the big idea behind it? And why do I think personally that people should enroll in it? And so when I did that thinking, what I came up with is that it really is a course that teaches. Wow, my husband just like dropped something really loud in the other room. I hope you didn't hear that, but maybe my mic's good enough that it won't sound loud, but it was really loud. It's like metal clanging or something. Anyways, so what I came up with is that the big idea behind the Contigo Approach online course is that it really is the only course out there that I have seen that promises to make you an expert in nature-based pediatric therapy. So the big idea is expertise, and the big promise is that it guarantees you'll be an expert in nature-based therapy. You know, if you do the work, if you do the reading and engage in the course and come to the mentoring calls, but it really is structured in order to guide you all along the process of becoming an expert. And so that is the thing that sets it apart from other programs that might be out there in the nature-based space. So for example, with the Contigo course, you get lifelong access, right? So that you can continue updating your knowledge as we make updates. You get ongoing mentoring calls. So we're going to mentor you as long as we offer the online course. I have promised that we will continue to do these mentoring calls. And you can attend those calls to get mentoring from experienced nature-based therapists. And then all the content and the course, the practical stuff, the forms, all the things that you get inside of the course, those things all together help walk you through the process of becoming an expert. And it's not a quick and dirty, really easy course, right? It's something that you invest in when you really want to become an expert. So that's kind of like the thinking I did around, like, you know, kind of applying what I learned from the book that I read to the Contigo course, and the thinking I did around, like, really making that the one core offer that I offer, so that then the business hive inside of the TGO community, the year-long group coaching program, then becomes like a next step for people who want to start a business, right? So for people who may be in the Contigo course, you learn all about becoming a nature-based therapist, but running a business is a whole other ball of wax, right? And it's a very natural progression, I think, for people. I've had many people actually take the Contigo course and then go right into the Bedrocks program when I offered it as Bedrocks before it was the Hive area inside of the TGO community. So to be clear, I kind of wish that I had kept the name Bedrocks, and honestly, I might change it in the future. I might change the name back to Bedrocks because I just like the name Bedrocks, and I think it's been a little bit confusing to consumers, to people that follow me. Like, wait, Bedrocks, the Hive, what is this? Like, I think I changed the name too quick. I should have just called the Hive Bedrocks, because you get more than people did in past iterations of Bedrocks, because it is a year-long program and there are a bunch of templates and forms and resources and way more coaching calls and things than people got in the past inside of Bedrocks. But I kind of wish I'd kept the name, so maybe I need to think on that. Maybe change the name back to Bedrocks. I just like the name Bedrocks. Anyways, that's all. That's it. I'm going to end here. This has been way too long. I'm sure you guys are sick of listening to me talk by now. So that's all. I would love, love, love to hear what your goals are, what you thought of this episode. Please help me feel less alone and say something. Podcasting is a very lonely experience because you put stuff out there and like you're probably like out on a walk or washing dishes or like driving your car right now. And yet a lot of times podcasters don't hear back from the people that listen. So please talk to me. Please reach out to me. Let me know what you thought of this episode on Instagram or inside of the TGO community. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I always love hearing from you all. So that's it. See you guys soon. Bye. Thanks so much for joining us today for Therapy in the Great Outdoors. If you can't get enough, if you just want even more information about nature-based pediatric practice, head on over to therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. At that website, you can join our free community, Therapy in the Great Outdoors, that has loads of resources for you to support your nature-based work with children, as well as a free ebook that I wrote called the Nature-Based Practice Roadmap. It is a guide to help you focus and avoid costly mistakes, which I might have made myself, as you start or grow your nature-based pediatric practice. On the website, you can also join the waitlist for the Contigo Approach online course. Contigo stands for Connection and Transformation in the Great Outdoors. This course will teach you everything you need to know to become an expert in nature-based pediatric therapy. To my knowledge, it is the only evidence-based, operationalized framework for pediatric nature-based therapy. And what that means is that when you take the Contigo Approach course, you will have a shared mental model for yourself, your clients, and your team. And this is how you grow a business, by having a framework that you use in your business that helps kind of anchor everyone to what is going on here and what are we doing. You'll learn about the research-based and theoretical foundations of nature-based practice and loads of practical how-tos about nature-based practice. How can you do nature-based practice in alignment with the evidence in order to get the best results for your clients? So a lot of times when people start out in nature-based work, I think they're DIYing it, which is fine. We learn a lot by DIYing things. However, you're not often sure if you're doing things correctly. And that means you could be making mistakes that could be costing you valuable time with families and children and getting them the outcomes that they really want from your session. DIYing also costs you personally valuable time and money as you are getting started in nature-based work. And this course can save you all of that time and money. This course also includes lifetime access, including any updates we make, and ongoing mentoring for years to come on our mentoring calls that we offer with the online course. So truly gives you everything you need to become an expert. I promise that. And it's the only course that will guarantee that for you. So head on over to therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com. You can also go to contigoapproach.com, but I have tried to make everything available at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com to make it easy to find all of the resources there in one place for you. That's it for today. Get outdoors, connect, reflect, and enjoy the business and practice of therapy in the great outdoors.